After a decade working in the dark, Elizabeth Holmes introduced Theranos to the world. Her blood testing device called Edison was so revolutionary that it was about to turn the entire healthcare industry upside down. This technology wasn't just another breakthrough in healthcare, but had the potential to reshape the entire world. Vice President Joe Biden came to visit her labs. Henry Kissinger, James Mattis, former defense secretary, joined the board of the company, and America's richest family was ready to give her as much money as she wants just to make sure that this technology wouldn't fall in the wrong hands. Little did all of these people know that this little girl is just fooling the American government and the country's wealthiest people. In 2003, a 19-year-old teenager from Stanford decided to start her own company. Elizabeth Holmes wasn't just an ordinary student. She used to wear a black turtleneck and was deeply inspired by Steve Jobs. Getting into Stanford is a challenge by itself, but her ambitions were much bigger than just Stanford. She wanted to change the world with her inventions and leave her mark in the history books like Thomas Edison, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs. The only problem was she did not know what exactly she should invent to make a difference. But that quickly changed when she stumbled across an idea of a wearable patch that could just adjust the dosage of drug delivery and notify doctors of variables in patients' blood. However, that seemed impossible because blood tests, first of all, take at least few days, and secondly, are expensive. Most people can't afford to do blood tests on a regular basis. So she started developing lab-on-a-chip technology for blood tests with the idea to start a company that would make blood tests cheaper, more convenient, and accessible to consumers. Finally, she has an idea that could change the world forever. She dropped out of Stanford while she was a teenager and started a company called Real-Time Cures. She quickly realized the power of marketing, and if she wants to be like Steve Jobs, she needs to market like Steve Jobs. So she changed the name of the company to Theranos, a combination of the words therapy and diagnosis. Just a year after founding the company, Holmes raised $6.9 million, valuing the company at $30 million. She was the new cool kid in the town. She was so good at convincing people that by 2007, she raised another $43 million at around $200 million valuation. Theranos was booming. Investors were lining up to give Holmes the money she wants to develop her technology. But what exactly Theranos was developing? Blood testing has changed the world since blood types were discovered in 1930. Since then, we have learned to discover STDs, cancer, and a lot of other problems through blood testing and prevent them before they get serious. But it's not easy or cheap. While a blood test is simple for you, with the exception of feeling a little pinch, the actual diagnostic process behind the scene is quite complex, requiring specialized equipment and technicians. And if something slightly goes wrong, the blood results are going to be wrong. So the industry has been mostly controlled by a few giants. But that was about to change, because what Theranos was promising wouldn't just change the industry, but the entire world. Holmes named her invention Edison. This machine required very little blood, a few drops from your finger prick, and could run hundreds of tests within a few hours. So instead of taking a lot of blood from your veins with big needles that will be sent to the lab for a few days for testing, You could place this machine in the store and people can blood test much more frequently and stop diseases like cancer when they're just starting. It was easy to imagine how such a machine wouldn't just be placed in every single store across the country, but in every store in every part of the world. Investors were lining up to buy a piece of her company, especially those who missed the opportunity to invest in Facebook a few years ago. After a few rounds of funding, Theranos was valued at $1 billion. After 10 years of working, she claimed that her technology validated by FDA and was used by the military on the battlefield. Investors were sold. The Walton family invested $150 million. Robert Murdoch invested $125 million. In 2014, with over $400 million in funding, Theranos was valued at nearly $9 billion. Holmes effectively became a multi-millionaire thanks to her 50% stake. She appeared on the Forbes magazine cover page, Time's Most Influential People, and the New York Times, The Fortune, and so on. She was seen as the next Steve Jobs, especially when Jobs recently passed away. Overall, she raised $900 million to fund Theranos, and thanks to her 50% ownership of the company, her net worth exceeded $5 billion once Theranos crossed the $10 billion mark. But not everything was sunshine and rainbows. What she didn't know is that Wall Street journalists were secretly investigating her technology and were about to bring her company to knees. Just days before Theranos Series C funding, where the company had sought to raise an additional $200 million, Wall Street Journal released their article criticizing Theranos' blood testing device. That infuriated the investors. Holmes did everything she could, but the damage has already been made. When the world knew that Theranos was actually rigging their test results, that was a death sentence. Her partners, one by one, began detaching themselves from her and closing the labs. But that was just the beginning, because little did she know that she might end up spending the rest of her life in prison. Holmes denied all the claims, calling the journal a tabloid and promising the company would publish data on the accuracy of its tests. She appeared on CNBC saying that,
"This is what happens when you work to change things, and first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world."
But that didn't work. Lawsuits after lawsuits drained the company's resources. In March 2018, the SEC charged Holmes with fraud by taking more than $700 million from investors while advertising a false product. Holmes is found guilty and faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, but her investors never really criticized her. But why? Well, it's easy to hate Holmes for her fraud. You have to understand the culture of Silicon Valley. When you get to investors with your idea, what most investors care about is if you're going to make it to your next round of funding so that they can sell their shares to the next investors for a higher price. And the next investor only cares if you can make it to round C, D, and so on, until the company goes public and the last investor will be able to cash out. The rest doesn't really matter. That's why a lot of startups that come up from Silicon Valley are usually overpriced and keep investors' attention by overpromising and under-delivering. Take the example of WeWork, Nikola Motors, and even Tesla. Tesla is a great company, but if you look at it, Elon Musk has always been overpromising until he makes it. In January 2016, he promised that in 2 years we will have fully self-driving cars. In 2017, he said that in 3 to 6 months, Tesla cars will be fully self-driving. But here we are in 2022, 5 years later, and we don't even know when is that going to happen. The new Roadster was first teased in 2014. In 2017, a prototype was shown with insane claims that it could accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, with a range of 620 miles. Production should have started in 2020, but now in 2022, Tesla postponed it to 2023 or 2024, and we have no idea when is that really coming. Tesla's semi-truck should have been delivered by 2019, but now it's 2022. It is on hold until Tesla can figure out the whole battery thing. The same story with Cybertrucks and so on. All of these promises have kept pushing the stock price higher and higher. And instead of Tesla delivering on its promises, Elon Musk is claiming that Tesla is a robotic company and it is going to focus on robots. These are just a few examples. I'm not trashing Elon Musk or defending Theranos. Tesla might deliver on all of its promises, maybe 5, 10 or 20 years from now. But the strategy is simple. Fake it until you make it. That's how Silicon Valley works. Once you make it, everyone is going to clap and talk about what a genius are you. But if you don't make it or get caught in the middle before delivering on your promises, then you're going to be seen like the villain who defrauded everyone. Whether that's right or wrong, I will leave that for you to answer.